see their pictures. So who knows if anybody's actually listening, but it's being recorded, so that's good. So so thanks for inviting me to speak, Mina. And these are interesting times, and when Mina asked me to speak, I thought about all the different things that I have to talk about. I mean, I've got lots that I can share, and I think the biggest question on everybody's mind is what's going on in the market right now, jobs wise and everything else with everything going on. Maybe I can start with just a quick intro as to who I am and what my background is. So my role, my position is president of TorontoJobs.ca. I am an entrepreneur. I'm actually a bit of a chameleon because I'm not only an entrepreneur, but my background's accounting, so I'm familiar with the accounting side. I do HR, I do sales, I manage a team. I manage two different teams, actually, two larger teams. And so I can flex back and forth. I meet entrepreneurs all the time. I meet human resources people all the time. I meet recruiters. I meet accountants. I do a bit of everything. As far as my background, like I've been in recruiting now for 25 years, and I've been primarily in the accounting sector is what I tend to recruit for. But we as a company, we've done everything under the sun, everything from sales, accounting, admin, customer service, you name it, junior to senior, and from across the board in terms of geographically throughout the Greater Toronto area. We've done placements in as far as Ottawa, Montreal. We've done as far as Calgary, Vancouver on the west. But generally it's Greater Toronto area is what it is. I started TorontoJobs.ca 15 years ago. It's our 15th year. In fact, today is our 15-year anniversary, believe it or not. I like to some of the people and articles that say, half the businesses close down in the first year, by 5 years, 80, 90, whatever the number is. And I feel, hey, we made it through. I mean, it's been tough times. As well as great times. We've had the benefit of a great rock solid job market for the last 10 years, from 2009 to 2020, really. But we've also had the unfortunate time of 2008, 2009, where the financial crisis, and now this time period as well. So, if it was my first time going through a crisis, I'd be a little bit more scared, more concerned or whatever. But this one is not like the last one, which was pretty crazy. If you may know, perhaps some of you have your parents that went through it back then, and that seems so long ago now, and now you're going through it. And it seems like each generation, maybe once every 10 years, there's a pocket where there's a disaster, so to speak. So I think just going back in history from my life, there was 1987 there was a Black Monday, and there were a lot of jobs lost, and people lost a lot of money. And then around about 95, there was another bit, 94, 93, 94, 95, there was a recession back then. And then in 2001, 2002, there was a dot-com bubble, which also people lost jobs, and it was bad. And we came out of that from entrepreneurs who started up businesses, and that kind of got us out of that. 2008, 2009, as I mentioned, we had the financial crisis, and we got out of that because the government, put a lot of money to stir up the economy and so on. And 2020 with coronavirus seems to be the same kind of situation where the government is just putting in tons of money just to make sure that the economy doesn't completely crumble. So that's a bit of my intro, my background. Our office is in Mississauga. We actually have two offices, one that specializes in recruiting and the other one that specializes that we do our events. We have our events team. So on the event side, we put on 12 events a year. We do primarily 6 job fairs a year, 2 that are in tech, 4 that are general job fairs. So I know most of the people here, if not everybody, is in tech. So the website is totechcareerfair.com. is teotechcareerfair.com. So TOTECH careerfair.com. I'm going to teotechcareerfair.com. I'll just put in the chat box here. So you're welcome to check that out. Now, we were supposed to have it on March 11th, and all this stuff happened, so we're going to defer that. For sure, September 22nd. Well, for sure, assuming that we can have events by then, is downtown. But March 11th may get postponed until the summertime or beyond. So that's and then so the other events that we do, we have 2 Toronto Entrepreneurs Conferences, so that's torontoentrepreneurs.ca. We have 2 Recruiters Conferences, so that's for specific for recruiters, torontorecruitersconference.com. And then we do a buy-sell conference of business. So that's our event side, and then the recruiting side, as I mentioned, what we do. Primarily, we specialize in full-time permanent placements, not so much contract or temporary. I know a lot of recruiters that over the years I've met, I've worked with, so I know a lot of people's styles, how they differ. So you're welcome to ask me any questions about recruiters and why recruiters do something specific, or why would this have happened, or how would this, how would something like this have evolved, or what should I have done differently, anything like that. So feel free to just put them in the chat, and I can go from there. So I just have 10 points, 10 broad categories that I wanted to talk about today, and really, work through them. And if you have any questions, like I said, just throw them in the chat box. And if I think of something that I think you might want to check into, by all means, just type your question in or comment or whatever. So the first point that I have is thoughts on the market. I touched on it already. I mean, just before this, there was Bill Morneau, who's the Minister of Finance for Canada, who was giving out the broad brushes of this wage subsidy program and how it's going to work and what it means. And by now you may have heard of the Canada Employment Response Benefits, CERB, that's just come out as well. These programs are so new, and they've been put together very hastily. They're probably going to be prone to mistakes of some kind. They've generally said, hey, if anybody misuses it for their own benefit, there will be consequences. But there's more questions than answers right now in terms of how it's going to work, when people will get their money, and so on. But this is the first time I've seen anything like this. And one of the things that I noticed that Bill Morneau said was that what normally this process should take 1 or 2 years just to get approvals, they put it together in about a week. So it's been really put together hastily. Like, it's going to cost the country a lot of money, and it's going to, basically be indebted for people for the next generation, But this is a once in a generation type scenario with this coronavirus, and it does require some significant help from the government to be able to try to get us out of this. So as far as the job market goes, which is probably your next question, how does that impact me? Well, a lot of companies are working from home. We talk to people. I talk to people all the time. Are you at the office? Are you not at the office? Most of the people are working from home. It makes it a bit challenging, for the job market, for interviewing. A lot of companies don't know what's going on. There's been a lot of layoffs. The number that I just saw this afternoon was 2.1 million people filed for EI in the last week or two. And to give you some concept of how big that is relative to Canadian economy, normally on a bad month of job losses, it would be 10 or 20,000 job losses that Canada as a whole would have. That would be a bad month. Normally, the job creation over the last 10 years has been anywhere from 2,000 to say 20,000. Maybe a good month might be 30,000, maybe a little bit more broadly over the last 10 years. So 2.1 million compared to like a bad month, which is 20 or 30,000. In the 2008, 2009 bubble or the bust or the financial problems, there were, I think, in the worst month, which was February or March of 2009, was about 80,000 job losses. So I'm just trying to put it into perspective, good, bad, or otherwise. Those are the numbers. That's what we're hearing. It is bleak. And the purpose of this is to kind of give you some concept of what's going on, and what how recruiters are thinking, and what companies are going through right now, so that it helps to come up with a strategy for how to find a position. So that's the purpose of it. So so those are the thoughts on the market. Number one. Number two is COVID-19, coronavirus. So how that impacts the market. There's no doubt that it's changing the dynamics of how work is being done. With people working from home, with more people working from home, it changes the interview process. It changes the way people find jobs. It becomes more important to do video interviews, to be able to have a good internet connection, have a good way of reaching people, being available. And employers and recruiters are expecting that people, since they should be at home, that they are going to be a lot more reachable than they have been in the past. I want to just, as a subset, talk about ghosting because ghosting has been a real problem on the recruiting side that has happened over the last 5 or 10 years. And ghosting generally applies to dating, applies to all kinds of different things. But what's happened is that a lot of candidates, a lot of job seekers over the last few years have felt to be okay that, I don't show up for an interview. I won't call the recruiter. If I had an opportunity, they call me, I'm not that interested, I'm not going to call them, I'm just going to disappear. Maybe some of you did that, maybe some of you didn't. But the thing is that databases are long. Companies have databases, and the information stays on there, and they'll put notes in saying that you ghosted them, and so any companies that you thought you might want to apply to, you may want to reconsider reapplying to that, because we just had that situation today in our office where we talked about it as a team, where a candidate reapplied for a position, and we were trying to reach them. They didn't show up for interviews when we called them, so we're just not working with that person. Like good times or bad times, you need to be aware of how you behave and how you treat interviews and so on. So right now it's probably going to be hard for anybody to get an interview, and just trying to get candidates going out for an interview is tough, because clients are hard to reach. Most of it is by video, and it's just difficult. So just make sure that, especially now, that anybody who asks for an interview, that you show up and that you're there, because you might not get a second chance in this kind of market. There's probably somebody else right behind you ready to take your job, or ready to take that opportunity. So so that that's how things have changed in terms of the job search. Less opportunities. Companies are not sure what to do. There's just so much indecisiveness right now, because they're not sure if this coronavirus is going to take 2 months, 3 months, if it's going to be the full year. So a lot of companies just made a very, very quick decision through the month of March to lay off, a bunch of people. And what they're doing right now is they are holding on. They're just kind of saying, well, let's see how this wage subsidy benefit comes into play. Let's see, maybe we rehire people. How much is the government going to pay? So there's that process right now going on in a lot of companies. And companies just don't know what they should do. And their business is down because people are staying from home. Now, and I'm going to talk about, I might as well talk about that now, is kind of what industries you might want to try to get into. Because I always say, like, even when times are bad, there's always companies that are hiring. There's companies that are growing and doing well. And even in good times, there's companies that are not doing well, and they're laying people off, and they're downsizing and so on. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about the kind of industries that are in demand right now that you should think about applying to and doing a little bit more research. And I'll show you a little bit about LinkedIn on how I would do that if I were you as we go along here. But some of the industries in demand right now, food, of course, especially companies like Canada Bread. Apparently, their business has skyrocketed since this has happened because people are hoarding bread, so their sales have gone up quite a bit. So, food industry, manufacturing, IT has been strong. I've been talking to some of the recruiters that are in IT. I can't be more specific than that to say, well, this portion of IT or that portion. I think you can use some of the tools that are available from job boards to do some research as to which types of positions they are. And Dana, I think Dana's the one has. Maybe Dana, you can just mute your microphone if you don't mind. Is that okay, Mina? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So yeah, I think Dana's got a little not the non-microphone there. Yeah, and then another area that I always say that does well in bad and not as good times is insolvency. So when you get companies in insolvency, creditor, bankruptcy, liquidation, those kind of companies, they do well when the economy is turning on a negative side. So if you know contacts within there, I'll show you maybe on LinkedIn how to do some research to find out, perhaps some industries in that area. Actually, why don't I do that now? Since I've been talking for 15-20 minutes or so, you're probably bored of me talking. So let me go to. So I just got to do some screen sharing, right? Share screen, and tell me, Mina, if you can see my screen here. Share.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So can you still see me, Mina?
Yes.
You can. Okay. All right. Because I can't see myself, so
Yeah.
that's fine. Okay. So what I would do here is, I'm always thinking, say you want to get into some. Yeah. Sorry, Mina. Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
Good.
No.
Good.
Okay. So say I know insolvency is one of the areas that I think there's opportunities to. I would say type insolvency, and I might type, see my first connections, and I would go into location and Toronto, and you can do this. This is on a free account. Like, this is not anything that I particularly have access or not access to. However, I do have a lot of connections. I have about 25,000 connections. So my first connections will be more than probably many of you. If you don't have a lot of first connections, you're still building, you can unclick this and just find more broad people. So I just put in insolvency in here. I put in Toronto for my first connections, and then I can see all these people that are in insolvency. My guess is a lot of these companies will have some needs over the next little while. I would probably say within the next, licensed insolvency trustee and owner of Albert Gelman. My guess is that these kind of people are going to have some needs in their organization, whatever that is. Could be customer service, could be IT, which is obviously why we're
Marc,
here.
sorry to bother you.
Yeah.
Your screen is on pause, I think.
On pause?
Yeah, because we can't see what you're doing.
Oh.
We only have your main page, like your profile page.
Oh, this one? Okay. This one here?
There. So now.
Oh, that's one. Oh, okay. Sorry, I don't know. Okay. All right. No problem. So sorry about that. So what I did, so you didn't see the search that I did, right?
No, sorry.
Okay, no problem. So insolvency, I went here, insolvency.
Okay, now we're looking at your Zoom screen.
Okay. Okay, well, let me move this.
Yeah, I see your mouse moving to the top. Right.
How's that? Can you see that now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, so what I'm doing is I type insolvency.
Perfect, now we can see.
Okay, and then I do connections, first connections. Thanks for letting me know, Mina. First connections, locations, Toronto. Apply. And here I have 49 results here. And my guess is that a lot of these companies will be doing some hiring over the next, you know, 3 to 6 months, as there's insolvencies and bankruptcies and so on that come up. So the point being is that if there's a certain industry, like you could even do this for, say, food, and then see who comes up in food, in the food industry. You know, food equipment solutions, maybe the tasty food and spices might have a growth in business. So these are the ways that you strategically go about trying to find opportunities using LinkedIn. Okay. Now I'm trying to get back to okay, here we go. So trying to get back to see where the if anybody has any questions or whatever. So if anybody has any questions, just plot them in there, I guess, right? Show grid. I'm not seeing the full Zoom page now. So anyways, I will.
If there are questions, I will.
You can ask.
I will moderate, because when you're showing your screen, and that happens with me as well, when we are showing our screen, we cannot see the chat box as much and kind of gets blocked. So if there are any questions, I will, and you guys don't want to unmute yourself, then I type it and I will ask. Because you said you had a question?
Well, I'm saying if anybody has a question, then they can. So this is the screen that you can see, right? This John Castellino?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so you know, just show the class maybe a little bit more tools that I would use if it was me looking for a job right now. Obviously, you know, technology is what this class is all about. So I might search. What's a good Mina? What would be a good phrase to search, or a skill? Is there a common in the class?
Java.
Java. Okay, so Java. Okay, so Java. So I come up with 600, more than 600 results here. People that have Java in there. Now I could search a little bit more. I'll filters and say I want somebody who's say specifically a Java developer here. Okay, and that might help make my search a little bit more targeted. So there's 5 results here, and these people are, you know, have Java developer in their title. Okay. So, and then I can broaden it out. So instead of putting it for the titles, so if I'm looking for a Java developer role, I want to connect with people that are in those roles right now, or maybe I might search on manager of Java developer, manager of Java development team, for example. Okay, so I might search. Let's do something broad, like just say manager of Java. Well, that didn't work out as well. But you try different things. You try Java head, right? Let's see if anything comes up. No. Okay. So and then, you know, I could take out my first connections and say, give me everybody. Okay. All filters. I'm just gonna put manager Java. Okay. So the point being is that I'm constantly just trying to look at different methodologies. So senior manager Java developer at Exiger. So these would be a good, this person would be a good person to connect with. So I might send them a note, like connect. Make sure to add a note. Don't just send now and there's no framework. Add a note to say, hi, Hashem, I am looking for a new, I'm a new graduate, or I'm looking for a summer job, or whatever it is. You know, I thought we could connect. Okay, so at least there's like some kind of reason why you're connecting with them. Okay, thanks, Marc. And then once they accept the invitation, then you can then send them a message directly through. You know, it won't show connect, it'll show message down here. So that's what you're trying to do. Now, it is a bit of a numbers game where you want to be sending out not just one at a time, not just 2. You want to send out, you know, 5, 10, 15, 20 messages if you can. and try different searches. I mean, I gave you the example of just Java with no connections. I mean, if you know, you might just want to broaden out to Canada, for example. You never know who might come up. Other keywords, like try different things to run it. And I'm going to show you kind of, this is this LinkedIn is more of a basic platform that I have. But as a recruiter, we have, if I click up here, we pay for this extra as a recruiter, but this gives us advanced searches on LinkedIn. It's called LinkedIn Recruiter. So I can search a lot more areas here, employment type, year of graduation, and so on. These are searches that I wouldn't get from just the basic LinkedIn account, which is here. The reason I'm showing you this is that a lot of recruiters use this, they pay for it. So make sure that, you know, your year of graduation, the schools, like all the information is in there, because I might search on job titles for people. I might search on geographically location. So in the basic LinkedIn, I can just search by general, like Toronto, Canada, United States, etc. And here I can search a lot more specifically, like North York, or maybe North York's, I don't know if North York is in here. Yeah, I can search on Hamilton, Ontario. Okay, I can search on, I think Newmarket might be in here. Yeah, Newmarket. So just make sure your information is all in there. Spoken languages, you make sure your postal code is in there. You might think, oh, well, why am I putting it in here? It's really important to have it, because then I can really search. If I'm a recruiter, I can search to find you there. Okay, so two different things. There's just the regular LinkedIn, and there's the Smart Search LinkedIn Recruiter, it's called. Okay, and you know, make sure to answer questions, and make sure to answer people responding, and I'll show you why. So when I search this, I see here, okay, there's 202,000 up here in this box, 202,000. 16 are more likely to respond, okay, and 13,000 are open to new opportunities. So make sure your settings on LinkedIn are showing that it's open to new opportunities, because I'm going to go, if I'm doing a search, I'm going to click on these ones first. Now, obviously, there's 13,000, but if I'm going to go, you know what, I'm going to go Java, and I'm going to really narrow it down, I might have, you know, see, now I only have 12. So instead of these 55, I'm going to go right to these 12 new people that are open to new opportunities. So make sure your settings on LinkedIn are such that it shows that you're open to new opportunities. Okay. So Mina, I'm leaving it to you in case anybody has questions, because I can't see if there's questions or whatever. So okay. So those are numbers. Again, I have 10 points, so I got about another 15, 20 minutes or so. Talked about my intro, talked about the thoughts on the market and coronavirus. I talked about layoffs. I'm not going to talk any more about that. I talked about wage subsidy already in the program, and there's the $2,000 a month that's available through the CERB plan as well. May not apply to many or some or all of you, I'm not sure, but they have said that as long as you made $5,000 over the course of the last year, either the last 12 months or in 2019, I believe, that you'd be eligible for it. And if coronavirus has impacted potentially your job or your search. Now, they've been very vague on the criteria and what it is exactly, but you should look into applying for that if you do qualify. It's up to $2,000 a month for up to 4 months is what they've said, and the application process starts next week, so you can have a look at that.
So just want to jump in for a quick second.
Yes.
For anybody that is planning to do that, I'm going to highly recommend that all of you go on to my CRA account and set up your account, because you're only going to send direct deposit, and it is extremely busy right now. Once you set up your account, you have to wait for a few days, 5 to 10 days, before you get a security code, and only then can you access it. So if anybody is planning to apply for it, please set up your my CRA account and get that code and stuff so that you don't have any challenges.
That's a great point. It's next week is I'm assuming the website is going to be very slow, and it might get you might have to be very patient. So, yeah, just do all the stuff as much as you can beforehand. It's a great point, Mina. Okay, so working from home, I kind of talked about it. This is my point number 5. I kind of talked about working from home and how that impacts the job market. It really just means that you're going to more than likely have video interviews as opposed to in-person interviews. People don't want people coming to their offices anymore, even if they are at the office. So I just want to talk about some tips on video interviews. And you can also, I did the video, which is a little bit more elaborate than this, than what I'm going to cover now. That is on the torontojobs.ca Facebook page. So you can scroll down. I think it was one that I did last week. So just go to torontojobs.ca Facebook page and check out some of the videos that are there. But I do talk about video interviews. So I'll just give 4 or 5 tips very quickly on how to do a video interview. Make sure the room is quiet. A good example with Mina, not to pick on Mina or whatever, but if you have another phone, like a phone line in that room, like try to unplug it, to make sure it doesn't ring during your meeting. Maybe try to do a hardwired plug into your computer if you have one for the internet as opposed to Wi-Fi. That way, maybe the line is a little bit more secure. Test it out beforehand. Test out the line. Maybe call a friend. Make sure that they can hear you properly. They can see you. Make sure you're in the center of the screen. Have a copy of your resume as well beside you, so you can make notes and you can follow along with the recruiter. Try to make eye contact. Be clear and practice. Practice what questions they might ask and be prepared. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, but many times, the difference between getting a job and not getting a job is simply the person's attitude and the person's preparation. And did they have questions ready? And I find that over the years that people who are ready, they're ahead of the recruiter. They know what the recruiter is gonna ask. They're prepared with answers. They know what they're going to say in certain cases or to certain questions. They have already thought about ahead as to why they want to work at that company. They've prepared questions about the company, about the job. Those are people that stand way ahead of somebody who's just kind of there going, okay, well, what are you going to do for me, kind of thing. Like, you're the employer, I'm the employee. What are you going to do for me? Like, that's not the right attitude, especially in this kind of market. Not at any time, really. But like I said, those candidates that are prepared in advance, most times they get elevated. They go to the next round of interviews. They are further on the short list than somebody who takes a real, hey, I'm just here, and you should be honored to have me join your team, kind of thing. So that's not that attitude is not going to work in this kind of market, trust me. So that's kind of working from home and video interviews. I'll just talk a little bit about your resume, just some tips about your resume.
Mark, I have a quick question from Athea.
Yeah.
She wants to know, could you give us an example of the kind of question we should ask so that we look smart?
Okay, good. Yeah, good. So I would ask, a range of questions. Could be anything from what's the growth opportunity for this position? Who's in the position now, or why is the position open? How big is the team that this person would be working with, that I would be working with in that case? What I think I mentioned, why is the position open? What's the culture, what's the environment like within the department, within the company? You could ask more specific questions about if you see anything online about the company, maybe an award that they won, maybe something that they, you might have noticed, or something about the president, or something about the team, maybe some kind of software that they're developing, whatever it is. anything's open. A couple of questions to stay away from are anything to do with salary and anything to do with benefits. Everything else is fairly open, but I would have like some questions ready to ask, and make sure they answer those questions. That shows that you're prepared and that you've thought it through. Okay. So next up, resumes. So I would just say, some tips on resumes. Keep it to 2 pages if you can. Use I usually recommend a 12-point font, not a 8 or 10. Make sure your name is clearly on there, your phone number is there, your email address. You can link it to your LinkedIn profile, perhaps, if you'd like, so there's a visual. I get this asked, should I put a picture? Should I not put a picture? On the resume, it's not very common to put a picture on. Usually on LinkedIn, it is good to have a picture. So just make sure to have a picture on your LinkedIn profile. Not as important on your resume, but if I'm going to your profile, which I probably will do, and a lot of recruiters do, they want to see a visual. Other things I would say about your resume is make sure your resume matches your LinkedIn profile in terms of dates, titles. I will take a resume and I will look at your LinkedIn profile, and if they don't match, then it's a red flag for me. So I'd be cautious about that. What else? For your resume, I would also make sure that there's 1-inch margins of white space on both sides and at the top and the bottom, because that it just shows a little bit better. And you can throw in some hobbies as well, just to give a little bit of personality of what you're all about as well. And then I would post that resume on the various job boards. You can throw it on torontojobs.ca. I would put it on Indeed. I know with IT, there's Monster and Dice seem to be ones that recruiters will get on. But I would throw it on. I would throw your resume onto job boards that where it makes sense for you, and where you see other jobs that are posted for what you're looking for. So that's number 6, 7 was video interviews. Using LinkedIn, just to come back to it, I would just continue to build your contacts. I would continuously do searches on people. I would also look at who has looked at your profile as well, and reach out to them. Like, why did you look at my profile? Now I'm not sure. Yeah, see who's viewed your profile. And I have a lot because I have a lot of connections, but you want to go in here and see, well, how come, why did so-and-so look at my resume or look at my profile?
If you see, all my students have gone to your profile right now.
There you go, right? Is everybody here? Ahmed?
Most of us have seen your profile right now in the last.
Okay, who else is there, Mina? I'm just going to send out Nusrat, Christian.
Yes, Nusrat, Sunil. Sorry. Right. I'm looking at the questions.
Yeah.
They're going to connect with you, trust me.
Yeah. So, sorry, was there somebody else here? Did you see, or no? So just connect with people that way. Like there's probably a reason why they search for you, especially if they're a recruiter. You want to know, like, why they connected with you. If they're a recruiter, maybe there's a job opportunity that they're considering it for. So you want to be responding, and then respond to connection requests kind of quickly, right? So here's Justin, so that's good. But I'd want to accept these fairly regularly. See, I have 25,004 connections. Okay. So you want to respond to them, notifications. If you see somebody, one of your friends, they got a job, say congratulations. Like, it's pretty easy to do. So this is the number one, right now it's the game in town, right? Like, this is the game that people are, using to find jobs and to connect with people. A year from now might be something else. Who knows? Like there's another platform called Alignable that is starting to get a little bit more traction. But who knows? But for now, LinkedIn is the game. So if you, yeah.
Mark, Deepak has a question.
Yep.
Deepak Best, he's also just sent you an invite. He wants to know, he says, we've heard a lot about ATS for resume selection. Can you share some views? And then Joel wants to know about job titles on the resume. Does it make sense to adjust as per the job ad if responsibilities are a match? So again, ATS resumes, some views, and what Joel's trying to say is that Joel's a CFO, was a finance director for a very good company, and he's decided to make a shift. He's shifted, and COVID happened. So he actually resigned and joined Destination CEO, and then COVID happened, and it's like,
Yeah.
So he's somebody who's going to be connecting with you because of his and your background. But one of the advices that I gave him was that different organizations have different titles for the same role. So his question is that, is it okay to adjust the job title so that the ATS picks it up?
Okay, so that's a good question. So I'll talk about ATS job title. So ATS, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a automated tracking system, or it could be automated, like anything to do with a candidate system. It could also be known as CRM in some companies, including recruiting firms, customer relationship management system. But you guys are all IT people, so I don't have to say educate you on systems or whatever. But what I can comment is about how they work and how companies use them. So depending on the complexity of the company and their systems and how sophisticated they are, certainly if you go to a bank website, one of the big banks, and you apply, your resume will get put into their system. Now their system can be as sophisticated as, here's the date that the person applied, here's their resume, here's what time, here's the communication that went back and forth, here's what jobs they might be applicable for that we're working on, and manage that whole process all the way through. So if your name's John, you were contacted on such and such date, you were brought in for an interview with this person, you went for a second interview on this person, you were offered the position, here's when here's when the company sent you the offer, here's when you sent it back, and the whole onboarding is all intertwined within that. Usually those systems, while they are sophisticated, they're more available and used by larger companies. So the big banks and the Fortune 500 companies. A lot of the smaller to medium-sized companies won't have that level of sophistication. They may have a database. Recruiting firms definitely have a database of some kind, and I've seen ranges everything from very basic to fairly sophisticated. So for ATS and kind of combining it to the next point, which is the job titles, actually, just let me say one more thing about ATS is that ATS, some of the more sophisticated ATS will also say, hey, this person's profile is an 84% match to this position. And you may be called and approached more quickly than if it's a 32% match. Now, some of the matches, some of the software is not always perfect. It's not the best tool, but a lot of recruiters do rely on it because it's supposed to take your resume and the words on the job posting and kind of say this person's a pretty close match. I'm still of the old school mindset of I want to see the resume because I can get things that are not specifically on a resume, like reading between the lines or whatever, that maybe an ATS system might not pick up on. But I'm old school recruiter that way. So I guess I would say, take a look at the posting. try to match as many words as you can, just so that if you do apply to a bigger company, that you will try to get matched a little bit more closely. If you're applying to a smaller or medium-sized company, it doesn't really matter as much because they probably don't have a sophisticated system. As far as changing job titles go, I'm not a big fan of changing job titles. So if you were a Java developer and they're looking for a senior Java developer, and you put, hey, what am I going to lose by putting senior Java developer? What you're going to lose out by is if somebody does a reference check on you, and they call and they say, well, the reference says, well, they weren't a senior Java developer, they were just a Java developer. You may risk losing that opportunity. I've seen companies walk away from candidates who have been misleading on the resume because they think that if you're misleading on a resume, what are you going to do to mislead us when you're actually working for the company? So be very, very careful of that, and as I mentioned earlier, match your LinkedIn profile to your resume, but really, really be very specific about the job titles that you have. Now, in saying that, there's no reason why you can't, in your profile, put in looking for a senior Java developer position. And then that way, at least it picks up for ATS, at least people know that that's what you're looking for. So just be aware of those little nuances, and don't mislead. Whatever the offer was that you had, whatever the job that you had was, make sure to put that on your resume. That's the best way of doing it. Okay, hopefully that answers your questions. Okay, so so just coming back, I'm just my next I'm on point number 9, and then I just have one more after this. Using social media for actually I just want to show one more thing on LinkedIn, and that is groups. Really important that you join groups that are relevant. So here's Java developers group. If you're a Java developer, you should be in this group. There's 400,000 people in here. Okay. If you're a Java developer, it doesn't matter where, just doesn't matter that you're only in, Toronto. If this is a worldwide group, that's okay. So there's 400,000. I would suggest anybody in this call that's a Java developer to be in that. Now there might be a Toronto Java developer group. Okay, Java developers Toronto. Okay, now there's 187 in here. Again, you should join, and once you join, you can find out about, here's the group admin. You should connect with this person, Jeff Mass, senior developer Gans. Good people for you to know. Okay, so that's how these are some of the tools that you use to find connections. And then, of course, you can go into Java and then find jobs that are Java developer or Java. Okay, so jobs in Java. Okay, so you can see these jobs and also apply to them, and you can search by, location and so on. Right? Okay. So that's LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is obviously a great tool to find leads like this and connect with people. But even Facebook, you just throw in different terms, Java developer, and just see who comes up. Maybe there's a job that comes up. Maybe there's somebody in here. So there's this page. You can go Java developer Toronto. I would really encourage you to spend, I would probably say a good at least 1 hour a day, like just building your network. 5,300 members in this group Facebook developer circle Toronto 2,400. These are groups that you want to connect with. If somebody posts something, maybe there's a job in here that somebody threw in. People, again, right? Connecting, growing. And you can do this with Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, those are the main platforms now. So, okay, so I just have a couple more minutes. I just want to do a quick plug on Toronto Jobs and how we can help you out. So post your resume on torontojobs.ca. You can do that. There's no cost or anything. You just go to torontojobs.ca. You post your resume. Very easy to do. You create an account and you're good to go. You can also email me your resume. I'm trying to get back to the where I can put a Oh, here it is. Chat. I'll just give you my chat. There we go. So here, I put my email address somewhere at the top there, but if somebody wants to email me their resume, I'm happy to receive it. You have my LinkedIn profile, so you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Every day on Facebook at 12 o'clock Toronto time, I do another video. Like I go on to, I actually do it on Instagram as well at 12 o'clock, but I do pick a different topic. So if you want to hear my boring voice every day at 12 o'clock, I sign on, and this group has 23,000 members. So here's the plug, and you can join in, and here is the video that I did today. And I do one every day, so you can check out some of the videos that I've done in the past. I pick different topics. You can also check out Tales from the Recruiter is the book that I wrote, talesfromtherecruiter.ca. You can check that out. I'll just put it on here. Okay, if you're interested in the book, it's including taxes, shipping, and everything. It's $20 shipped anywhere in Canada. It's a book that has about 200 pages of good stuff. It's basically at cost to you because the printing and delivery and everything else is about $20 and taxes and shipping. So, and then we have our job fairs that I mentioned, totechcareerfair.com. totechcareerfair.com. Perhaps you might, come out and check those out. And yeah, come out to LinkedIn, check us out, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're on each one. And that wraps it up, I think. Is there anything else that I missed, Mina?
No, we have a few questions. So
okay.
I know that you have to rush, but I'll quickly go through the.
No problem. Yeah.
Is it worth to apply for jobs online that have been posted for 25+ days?
I would, if it's still there. It may be that it hasn't been taken down. It may be that they're still looking for people. It may be that they've forgotten to take it down. It may be that anything can happen. So you might as well throw it in. Yeah, I would apply.
ATS system, does it sort by the most recent date applied to or the oldest, or the other way around? I.e., does it make sense to apply closer to the deadline, or the earlier the better?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I think there's two questions in there in a way.
Yeah.
So when you go to a job board, like if you go to torontojobs.ca and you post your resume, don't just go in there and this applies to Indeed and everything else. Don't just go in there, post it, and then disappear. Go in once a week and just either log in or change something on your resume, because then it brings your resume up to the top. Okay, like on job search results. The secondary question, I think, is, if a position says, you have until like next Wednesday, April 8th to apply, should you apply like today when you see it, or should you wait till like April 8th to apply? I don't think it really matters, but I would usually apply earlier the better, because even though they might say we'll accept resumes till a certain date, sometimes they get so many at the beginning that they're just like, the ones later is, let's just leave those. Let's just go through the ones that we've received.
Does certification impact selection process?
Does certification affect?
Impact. So I guess this is, if you're a newcomer and you're looking for a job, should you really go and get some certifications before you start applying, so that your impact on job market is higher, selection process?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the certification is, depends on how important the company feels about certain things. So I wouldn't necessarily not apply. I mean, I think I would still apply if you feel that you have a good match. One thing I would also say is that if in your heart of hearts you don't have at least 80% of what they're looking for, I wouldn't bother applying. Like, you're just probably going to waste your time. So I would say, if you have at least 80% apply. If you don't have 80%, don't apply. So, I mean, I always give the example of a dentist. Like, I know nothing about dentistry. So if I were to apply to a dentistry position, I'd be completely wasting my time because I'm a 0 out of 10. So if they're saying, you know, we're looking for somebody with 5 years of experience with this certification and so on, and you really don't have that, then just don't bother. Like, you're probably just wasting your time. You might think, oh, I applied and maybe I have a chance. You probably don't have a chance. You never know, but you know, you might be wasting your time and their time.
We
And
usually have the 70% rule. So
70, 70, 80.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
If anyone is looking for entry-level positions but don't have the agency or corporate experience, how should one go about it? So I think this person wants to go into tech recruitment, I guess, or recruitment as such. They don't have the experience. How should they get started?
You know, I mean, volunteering is great. Like, you know, just reaching out to potential prospective firms and saying to them, hey, look, you know, I don't have experience, but I'm really keen on getting into this, and here's why. Like, not just, hey, I'm interested, like, here's why I want to do this. A lot of recruiting firm owners, like, I know a lot of them, they will give people a chance, you know, if they're really keen on it. It's the ones that they won't give a chance to are the ones that are like, yeah, I want to try it out. I'm not sure if this is really what I want to do. So, you know, will you give me a chance? And it's like, nah, you know what, you don't seem hungry enough. The ones that come in and say, look, I've talked to 5 people who have done this. I've read, you know, Marc's book about Tales from the Recruiter. It's about recruiting and you know, getting into the industry. I really loved it. Every page, you know, I talked to 2 people that are in the recruiting industry that just love it, and I have the same personality. You know, things like that. Like, people showing excitement about it makes a huge difference. So I would say volunteering, reaching out, and I'll just touch very quickly. I mean, I could spend an hour on it, but the hidden job market. The hidden job market are jobs that are not that they're not publicly advertised. Okay, like these are the jobs that, you know, hey, I know so and so, they might be good for this job. Never advertised, never publicly advertised. It's just, you know, you're given the opportunity that has never been publicly advertised. That accounts for 80 to 90%, depending on who you talk to. Some people say 70%, some people 80, but it could be 80, it could be 90, whatever percent of all jobs that are found or filled are found through the hidden job market. So in this kind of market where, you know, layoffs are happening, jobs are down, that becomes much, much more important, that hidden job market. It's about who you know. So build your network, make your contacts, and at that point, you know, if you know, somebody wants to get into the recruiting industry, they can try to connect with somebody in that area and say, you know, use the twofold. One is, I know somebody who knows you, I'm connected with you on LinkedIn. But secondly, you know, I'm really excited. I really want to do this kind of job.
That's amazing. Yes, passion and purpose, going back to that, right? If a person doesn't have job experience, is there a lesser chance in being hired? I think at some point, right now, Marc did say that your passion is going to speak for yourself, but I know, Marc, you have to go for it. Oh my God.
I see. I'm looking at the questions now. So.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah. So if a person doesn't have job experience, is there a lesser chance to be hired? You know, I take people who have better attitude and less experience rather than having all the experience but have a bad attitude. So take that to mean that, you know, have a good attitude, and that will go a lot further than necessarily not having the job experience. Certainly, if a client's saying, like, you know, 10 years of experience needed, and it's a manager position, and you have 1 year of experience, chances are you're not going to get that job. But you know, it depends. But what goes over and above everything is the attitude, and it's the connections too. And I'll just give you this one more quick example. I've had many clients, like, they come to us and they say, we need somebody with this qualification 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't want anybody who doesn't have those 5 qualifications. And I'm like, I don't think you're going to find somebody. I don't think I can find somebody. Even with all the people I know, I don't think I'm going to find somebody like that. And they say, well, that's what we want. And so I'll follow up after a week. Hey, I'm still looking. Have you found anybody on your own? No, we're still looking. And this might go on for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, even longer sometimes. And then finally I'll call and they'll say, Mark, we found somebody. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Can you tell me who it is? Because, I'm amazed if there's somebody out there that has everything. And they'll give me a name and I'll say, that person doesn't have that. And that person doesn't have this. You said you wanted all 5 points. And they'll say, well, yeah, but it was a referral from somebody, somebody's friend. It was some, employer, the president's, son's friend or whatever it is. And all of a sudden, all those 5 criteria that are must-haves that they told me they were must-haves, it became 3 plus the relationship. So keep that in mind. That goes a long way, the power of networking and contacts. What are the most potential markets open right now for getting a job? I think I talked about that earlier. Manufacturing, food, insolvency, some of the IT areas as well. Being a newcomer in Canada, no Canadian experience. Definitely banking is having its challenges right now, there's no doubt. In all areas, I'm getting more and more resumes from people who have worked in banks that have been traditionally, fairly stable. So I always say, I would say use the job boards to find out like what jobs are open, what companies are hiring, and kind of pivot towards that if necessary. So, alrighty, does that help? Do I have everything, Mina?
I think so. Does anybody have any other questions for Mark? I know that you have to go, Mark.
Yeah. I gotta hop on it. I just texted to say I'll be just a couple minutes late here, but
Meena and Mark, Nitin here. Just a quick question. So, what is who's hiring? Which sector is hiring? Who's laying off?
Well, I mentioned again some of the industries that are hiring: manufacturing, food, insolvency will definitely hire, and IT seems to be strong right now. It's still during all this, even because people can work from home, so that doesn't change a lot. Mm-hmm. Companies that are laying off, service industries. A lot of service industries are laying off. Mm-hmm. There's definitely, transportation is actually pretty strong still because you still need people, kind of going back and forth. Mm-hmm. Banking, I've seen that there has been, a number of layoffs. I tell from the resumes, and accounting area for sure has let people go in general. Mm-hmm. So just to give you some examples on both sides. Now there are exceptions, but that gives you a, very high level, what people are seeing, what changes there might be.
Okay, thank you so much.
Nitin Dora, you are here. I can't believe it. Mark,
okay.
I want to introduce you to Nitin Dora. Nitin is my mentor. Gave me my first opportunity to be a mentoring coach and helped me become a job developer. He is the program manager for Dixie Brewer Neighborhood Services, which is a nonprofit organization in the neighborhood. I can't believe. Thank you, Nitin.
Thank you.
I didn't see your last name, Nitin, but yeah, I know it's nice to see you.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Mark was one of our first mentors in 2005. For the mentoring program. So
showing our age.
He's my mentor, and I would say a role model because the way he goes about torontojobs.ca is absolutely fabulous. I just saw your post on LinkedIn, so I joined in late. But I could gather a little bit.
Oh, good, yeah. Well, you're showing both of our ages, right?
Hey, I colored my hair. It's okay. I'm with you guys here. Nitin, I'm going to hold you for a minute since we have the pleasure of you being here. Mark, thank you so much for.
I'm trying to see everybody, but I can't. I can only see the questions here. So, anyways, it's all good. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Meena. I really appreciate you inviting me. Nitin, nice to see you. And we should catch up at some point for sure. I'm gonna make a note of your name to give you a call. See at the
you
job
so
fairs every
much.
so often.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right, sounds
Mark.
good. Have a great day. Thanks so much.
You
Thank
too.
you.
I really appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Take